Hello everyone and welcome to Module 2 of Developing Writing Tutors. We are here after a long conversation on Module 1 where we looked at the needs that we identify for each discipline with the realization that reading and writing, apart from the genre agnostic characteristics that all of them must possess, are also things that concern each discipline specifically, that each one of us and our students are responsible for identifying the kind of writing, the kind of reading that our students need in particular, so we can focus on those, we can emphasize them, and we can make sure that our students know how to do that. Module 2 is beginning to ask a different question. We start by saying, now that we know that we want to include reading and writing into the curriculum, how are we going to do that? What happens when we include reading and writing into the curriculum? What has been the experience that we have had, but also that scholars in various disciplines, related and not related to ours, have had? And how can we use these experiences in order to build a meaningful process of learning for the student? The usual model is something that most of us are familiar with. We are ambitious people. We take a course, for instance, which is concerned with the history of the discipline. We're trying to address a particular historical time period. We are trying to introduce the students, say, to architects and designers who created works which are worth studying, which are worth understanding. So we spend the sessions that we have over 15 weeks of engagement with the students, trying to pack into each one of them as much of our knowledge and expertise as we humanly can. That means that our hours of interaction with the students are dedicated to content and analysis, and most of us tend to be excellent teachers. We know our stuff. We know how to integrate, how to analyze, how to explain the connection between an approach of an architect or a designer and the socio-political historical context to which they belong. All of this is excellent. What we want is to bring a little bit of writing into it, and that is when we set an assignment which requires the students to do something, very often an essay. Now, when we take this approach, what ends up happening by the end of the course is that we have a graph which shows, say, 10% of the students, if we are really lucky, who have done an absolutely brilliant, excellent job of the essay. They have used the experience of the classroom to bring in analysis, to show their own understanding. They have written the essay beautifully. It is almost good enough to be sent somewhere for publication. Even if it is not good enough for publication, it definitely tells a story that matters. It speaks to the reader, even when this reader is just us as tutors. Apart from this 10%, the 10% that gives us joy, we usually also find around 60% of the students who have made it a point to submit the assignments, who have done their best, but haven't quite made it there. Their assignments are something that makes us feel, okay, if only they had done a little bit more work, if only they had written in a more organized way, more carefully, this could have been such a good essay. And then we have the other 30%, the students who either have not tried, who have not submitted, who have submitted work which is plagiarized or work which has been generated using ChatGPT. And that is the heartbreak. Now, this graph is not unexpected. And Module 2 is concerned with challenging the assumptions that we make when we set an assignment like this. Let's name some of these assumptions. Assumption number 1 is that my brilliant analysis delivered in the classroom will be transmitted as a mode of thinking to the students without articulating it any further. That when the students see me talk about an architect in their context, they will use the same approach, they will do the same kind of background work, and they will produce a similar kind of analysis. But this kind of thinking is what is considered higher order learning. The ability to synthesize information and to analyze like this is not easy, is not intuitive, and most of the students will not be able to do it. The second set of assumptions has to do with what the students bring to the process. Assumptions like, for instance, that the students know exactly what the requirements are. That when we have asked them to write an essay, they know the kind of essay we mean. That if we say write an analytical essay or a critical essay, they know what we mean by analysis or critique. Is that an assumption that we can make? Very often not. And so the students struggle, and the students end up writing something which is different from our expectations. Assumption number 2 in this set, that the students can actually do what is asked of them. Can, indicating the fact that they know how to do it, that they have the skill to do it, that they can translate this knowledge into practical application, that they have the time to do it. That when they look at this essay, they don't see an enormous task which has to be packed in the last night before submission, which you know is always the case. But in fact, they know how to systematically divide it into components and approach this task as something manageable. And then we make another assumption which has to do with motivation, that the students in fact see value in this task and they want to write the assignment we've asked them to write. Is that the case? Well, very often not. And so we turn around and we realize that the students don't want to do our assignment, haven't made enough of an effort to do our assignment. And very often that leads to disappointment, but it also leads to a situation where we have, in effect, failed to teach. We have failed to design a learning experience in which the students can take the next step in knowledge building, in ability building, and in motivation, and feel that they can achieve what we have set out for them, and that achieving it is a meaningful thing to do. Module 2 then is concerned with understanding all the varied components of the process of learning how to write. These have to do with us as tutors. They have to do with the thing that is being asked of the students, the object, what we will end up calling the output, which is the text that they have to produce. Module 2 also has to do with what makes for a good learning situation. The way in which we design each interaction, each classroom, even the activities that the students have to go through outside of the classroom in a way that is meaningful and inviting and serves our purpose. And it has to do with the way in which we bring all of these things together, including the understanding of the learner, the understanding of the student, put them together like pieces of a puzzle and make the magic of writing happen. Welcome then to Module 2. It will be divided into the same kind of component pieces that you have seen in Module 1, and it will invite you to reflect on your own processes of learning, on your own processes of teaching, and what you have experienced and seen others experience as writers.